Welcome back to Poor Brothers Whiskey. I'm David. This is Mike. Tonight we're talking bourbon.
Gonna learn you something today.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm excited to do this. I think there's a lot of people that don't know a whole lot about what some of these terminologies are.
Yeah.
Terminology, is that the right word? Did I just make that up?
Yeah, no, we'll run with it.
We'll go with it. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not experts by any means.
No.
But when we started this year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was, this is probably the hardest part about bourbon is understanding all the different verticals or expressions or whatever you want to call it.
When you first get into it, you can go in a store and you see single barrel, you see bottled and bond, double oak, terms like that. It's a bit confusing at first.
Absolutely.
I remember walking in and I knew I wanted a Elijah Craig barrel proof because people had said that's the one you want. I didn't understand even at that point that it meant that it was a high proof bourbon. I mean, I kind of assumed that, but I didn't know for sure. Mm-hmm. And small batch, single barrel, barrel proof. Again, you need to learn these things. And
yeah.
I don't know. I do know, I actually was reading today, small batch, it can be as low as 2 barrels that you just blend together to make, a consistent product. Right. Or it can be as high as 300.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. I knew it was a blend of barrels.
I would assume Buffalo Trace, E.H Taylor, that's going to be on the higher end of that.
Yeah.
There's going to be a ton of barrels that they're blending together to stay with getting a consistent product.
Yeah. And so, that's exactly what small batch is. And we figured what better way to kind of explain the terminology and all the terms surrounding bourbon than with the E.H Taylor vertical. I mean, it literally has almost every single one.
Yeah.
And so that is small batch. Mm-hmm. Single barrel. I mean, it's literally in the name. It's coming from a single barrel.
As easy as it sounds.
Yeah. And so with this one, it's a little different. You may see this sticker right here off to the side. And so that's going to mean that it's a private barrel. Literally, someone went out and selected the barrel they wanted and said, that's the one that we're going to go ahead and bottle.
Taste through a couple and pick which one is their favorite.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's one.
And that's, sorry to cut you off, but.
No, I'm used to it.
Private barrel is the way to go, I believe, with E.H Taylor single barrels. I've had a couple different standard single barrels that aren't private barrels. They don't have this little medallion here. Mm-hmm. And they have been awful. They almost twist your cheeks. They're so sour. And then you get a private barrel like this, and it can be one of the best tasting E.H Taylors you've ever had. Mm-hmm. So these days, I would rather spend my money on a small batch than a single barrel. I feel like and this kind of goes hand in hand, when you first get into bourbon, people are like, oh man, you got to get the single barrel. Once you get the small batch, it's like, got to get that single barrel now. You really don't. No. Unless it's a pick.
Yeah. Or unless you're trying to collect the vertical and look cool, I guess, and have all the tubes, but
that's different. And I have had the standard single barrel that was actually pretty good, but
oh really?
It's one in a million. I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it if it's not a store pick, but so far every store pick I've had
has been great.
So good.
And that's not always the case. E.H Taylor's, yes, that's been the case for us. There's a lot of times where I've got a store pick of something like an Eagle Rare or a Woodford Double Oak or something that's a private barrel, and the pick was way worse than the standard product. And then I've had another pick of the same thing, and it's much better. So I mean, they vary. You're truly gambling when you buy a single barrel.
Yeah, absolutely. And then moving on to the next, you got your straight rye. Yep, and that's going to speak to the mash bill.
Yep.
Right. So
I believe it's not disclosed with.
Yeah. Well, I'm just talking about just ryes in general.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. What makes it a rye?
It's a rye whiskey. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Truly bourbon.
It's not even bourbon. So that's kind of one thing that a lot of people will trip over themselves is call a rye bourbon when it's in its own class.
It is. Yeah.
Has to be at least 51% rye grain.
Yep.
In order to even be considered a rye. So, and until this year, I was never a huge fan of ryes because they're spicy. Typically, spicier notes is what's going to come from them. But there's always a bottle out there for everybody. And, I wrote them off so early on when I started getting into whiskey that I finally was introduced to a really, really good one. And that opened my eyes to the world that is rye whiskey.
That's how it goes for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's how it was for me.
Yeah.
I think one of my first couple months being into whiskey, somebody had given me, they just went to the store and were like, oh, you like whiskey? Now here's a whiskey I saw on the shelf.
Oh.
And it was a Woodford Reserve rye. And I tried it and was like, what the is that? Dude, I could not stand it. I thought it was the spiciest, hottest thing. It was still like 90 some proof, but it just came off so hot. And I refused to touch ryes for a while. And then, like you said, I tried the right one, and all of a sudden it opened my eyes to ryes. Yeah,
mine was Whistle Pig rye, and someone gave me that, and I legit thought I was drinking like just pure alcohol, like rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
It was so bad for me. I mean, you know, so yeah, kind of similar story. I stayed away from them, and then someone introduced me to one and was like, this is a bourbon drinker's rye. Like, it is not spicy. It's really tame.
That's another good term to focus in on too. A bourbon drinker's rye.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Truly,
Absolutely.
That's just something that if you really love bourbon, you hate ryes, try this one.
Yep. Kind of just introduces you to that world, and they're great. They're great. Now, I honestly, there's days where I prefer some ryes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been big into ryes lately. But if you ever you ever try a rye in the beginning of your bourbon journey, you know, don't be turned off by it. If you don't like it, wait a couple months, try another one, be open to them, because you may find the right one that's going to get you into it.
Yeah. Shout out to our buddy Tim, who hates ryes.
Absolutely. That'll never work with him, but he's a different case.
Yeah. And then, at least from here, last but not least, you've got your barrel proof.
Yep.
Yeah. And then
the goat.
The goat. Of this lineup, hands down the goat. This right here is batch 12.
Yes.
This one in particular, which is amazing. If you haven't had it, find yourself a sample, try it.
Yeah.
Well worth it.
So typically with barrel proofs, for me, I get the most flavor, the best like viscosity. Like it elevates everything you love about a small batch is just times 10 in this bottle.
Right. And to define it, it's literally what is in the barrel goes straight into here. Like that. There is no watering it down or anything like that. It is from the barrel into the bottle, and that is what you're getting. And yeah, to David's point, you get every single flavor out of that thing. You know,
it's the best version of that product that I think it can be.
Yeah, I mean, that's why barrel proofs are just so sought after, for that exact reason.
And also those, if you try a barrel proof product and you're not the biggest fan of it because it's way too hot, because I understand if you're just getting into bourbon and you try a 120, 130 proof bottle, a lot of times that's way too much. You kind of got to work yourself into that. So I would definitely, if you, like, say you go into a store and you find one of these and you're just getting into bourbon, just buy it and set it aside, train your palate a little bit, and then go to it, you know, because these are great. And they're what, $80?
This? Yeah, it's like $70-$80. Yeah.
Such a good deal.
Absolutely. Yeah. One other, I think, pretty cool thing when it comes to barrel proofs is NCF, Nonchill filtered.
Yep.
So for those who don't know what that is, there is literally a chilling like process.
The chill filtration,
yeah. And some people will literally look for bottles where that doesn't happen because they love the idea of barrel to bottle.
Oh yeah.
Right? And nothing is changing the flavor of that barrel, of that product. And so you may see that around. It may or may not, you know, resonate with you. I know for me, I personally don't mind. I mean, I don't seek it out by any means, at least for me.
Non-chill filtered bottles?
Yeah.
So sometimes I do.
Really?
It depends on the bottle. Like, for example, Wild Turkey Rare Breed. They have the travel exclusive. There's a non-chill filtered version. And it's almost like what I just said with the small batch and barrel proof. It's like everything you like about Rare Breed, but it's amped up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason they do chill filtration is like if you leave it in your car on accident and it got really hot or really cold, cork didn't pop or anything like that, the whiskey isn't going to be bad. You know, you're not going to ruin the whiskey from a big fluctuation of temperature.
Okay. Yeah.
I believe. Again, I like making stuff up here, so could be wrong about that.
So yeah. So that's and you'll hear plenty of other terms, but we felt that through the E.H. Taylor vertical, this is kind of going to be the beginner's guide.
Yeah, these are some very common terms you're going to come across, and some common ones that confused us when we first got into it. So it seems like an easy thing to start with, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other nuggets of information for beginner watchers?
I don't know, man. I mean, if it depends on how early on in this they are.
Yeah, I think regardless. I think regardless, find your bottle. Like if you're trying to get into bourbon, find your bottle. One thing that we didn't touch on
is what we're drinking.
What we're drinking and why we drink it the way we do and why we nose it the way we do and things like that.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Oh, there you go.
You know, just early on, if you see people literally sticking their nose, sniffing a glass, rolling it like that, you literally have a dominant nostril. And sometimes your left nostril, sometimes your right nostril, you'll get more notes out of whichever one it is for you. So a lot of times, I don't know which one it is for me, but I know that it smells different through each nostril on some stuff. Yeah. Some stuff, no difference at all. But a lot of times you'll kind of see me checking that, and I'll start and I'll roll the Glen over. Swirling it, I feel like sometimes that, if you go to nose it and it's almost muted, you can do this and it like makes the smell, the aromas come up out of the glass.
Yeah, and that's why you'll see us kind of twirl it around a little bit, just to literally be able to get kind of those smelling notes out of it. Because if it's just sitting there, you know, it won't be as prominent.
Yeah.
Right.
Just pushes it up and helps us a little bit.
Yeah. And then the one thing I want to touch on is tasting notes. A lot of people are like, man, how do you describe what you're even drinking?
That tastes like liquor. What are you talking about?
It's literally going to be whatever resonates with you. So like whatever comes to mind as far as like how it resonates or relates to something, that's the answer. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to tasting notes. There's common notes like vanilla, caramel, and you know, things like that you'll find in bourbon, but
vanilla and caramel, that's something you're going to get if it's a bourbon and it has been interacting with the wood in the barrel. Caramel and vanilla will always be there. And it took me a while to even find that note. When I first got into this, it was my father that was like, you know, you're supposed to smell vanilla. And I'm like, really? Like, you sniff that? Yeah. And I tried it and I was like, you're crazy. Yeah. I do not smell that. Yeah. And then one random day I just sniffed it and was like, I think I just smelled vanilla.
There you go, you grew up.
And no, it just, man, all of a sudden it'll click. It just takes the right bottle, the right timing, the right environment. And sometimes if you're trying to get tasting notes or nosing notes and you're not getting them, keep trying.
Yeah.
You will find it eventually.
Absolutely.
And like you said, these are all, it's subjective. We say we get apples and cherry and peanuts, you know,
you may not.
It's going to be completely different for you more than likely.
Yep. Absolutely. So
this smells like grapes.
Sure.
It legitimately does.
No, I definitely agree about that. Well, very good, man. I think that was a little different video than we've ever done. So, you know, hopefully you guys learned something here today. Let us know what we missed, what else you can add to it. Was this helpful? You know, would love to do some more things like this for you guys. So, you know, until next time, we'll see you. Like, subscribe, comment, you know, you guys.